Today I am celebrating Richard D. James, otherwise known as the Aphex Twin. And I suppose there will be people who will never have heard of him uh, as I'm recording this video, and more the pity, because he is one of the greatest musicians of our time. I would suggest that he is of the stature of Mozart or Beethoven or Bach, which is an incredible thing to say about someone, especially considering the depth of their composition, their mathematical prowess, their theory, um, I mean, their virtuosity in their instruments. I mean, what an incredible comparison to make. And yet I make it advisedly. I am a musician and I have great awareness of the complexity of what it is that the Aphex Twin has created. You can enjoy his music just for what it is. It's the same with the great composers. You can just appreciate their art just for what it is. You don't have to know anything about music. You can feel it. You don't have to have the slightest understanding of music theory or what musicians have to go through. You can just enjoy the music for what it is. That is the sign of a good artist, when you can just perceive what it is that they're doing without any explanation whatsoever. And yet, for those of us who are artists, for us to be able to then see into somebody's work and go, wow, like I can see what they've had to do in order to be able to create that. That is another thing. And one of the reasons that I consider him to be such a great composer is just how prolific he is. Richard D. James has recorded so much music, and almost any piece you can just sit down and involve yourself in from start to finish. He's made music, a lot of electronic music, in a time when a lot of people make music for DJs. So if you play their song, there'll be 8 bars, 16 bars, maybe 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes of just plodding nothingness, because the main part of the song only comes in after a certain point because it was designed for people to be able to DJ with it. Richard D. James has never done that. His music expositions are from the very first note to the very last, fading out of the subtlest sound, absolutely present and composed and there to transport you on a journey, clearly as he's transported himself on a journey with the music that he has made. There's always a sense of live, living vitality in his recordings that you don't get from a lot of electronic music. There's the sense that he's probably recorded this in a take, you know, that something live has happened. There's probably many of his recordings where that wasn't the case, and that they were pre-programmed and crafted over huge amounts of time and played and edited and played again, and yet still they convey that sense of living presence. But one of the other things that I really admire about Richard D. James has been his savvy and his awareness about how to deal with this time of public relations where everybody has a phone and a profile. He has managed to remain elusive and obscure, and create a kind of a private realm for himself whereby he can create and do the things that he loves and feels inspired by without having to give thought or credence to what anybody else has to say about it. He's done live performances and music shows. I mean, some of the live performances he did, he played completely concealed by a Wendy house on the stage. One could ask whether or not he's doing anything live at all. He's always remained his working process, and the way in which he does what he does has always been shrouded in secrecy. He's never explained what it is that he does or how he does it, and people have spent huge amounts of time trying to explain it, trying to fathom it, trying to identify his samples and how he does what he does. His music ranges from carnage, from audio carnage, like the world is ending, through to the most exquisite and peaceful and solemn audio textures that you can imagine. There's one of his albums which is, I would say, a soundtrack to being ill. A beautiful ambient album of gentle groans, and it's amazing the range of sounds and music that he has made. So clearly I'm quite moved by the work of Richard D. James. It's interesting because the first electronic band that I was part of, the other person that I made music with went on to, he moved to London with the determination to meet Richard D. James and ended up releasing music on his label. I've got a great deal of admiration for him and for both of them in having formed that alliance that they did. But I'm really glad that I never got to know him, because I'm starting to understand that sometimes meeting your heroes isn't necessarily for the best, and just being able to cherish the creations that they've contributed to the world is enough, is more than enough. It allows us to form our own images and our own ideas about the people that created those wonderful things that have caused to inspire us. So today I'm giving thanks to Richard D. James, the Aphex Twin. It's funny when you hear people say the Aphex Twins. It's just one man. And to honour him for his life and his contribution. I suspect that he's possibly not the easiest man in the world to get on with, but regardless, his work transmits incredible beauty and deep soulfulness that I highly convey and recommend to everyone. To Richard D. James.